It's my pleasure to introduce Kayla Major as our guest speaker today. Kayla has a BA in liberal arts from the University of Illinois at Chicago with a focus on psychology. She is currently a graduate student at Aurora University, working toward her MSW. Kayla worked as a prevention educator at Freedom House from 2017 to 2019, providing teen dating violence, bullying, and social emotional curriculum to students of all ages. In 2019, she transitioned to a role of counselor, where she provides counseling to children and teens who have experienced abuse and violence in relationships. She has worked with local schools, organizations, and colleges to provide advocacy for students and community members in Freedom House's service area. She strives to bring victim-centered and age-appropriate information and resources to her community and build awareness about the impact of sexual violence. So welcome, Kayla, and thank you so much for doing this for GFWC.
Yeah, thank you for having me. So I think today's topic is so important, right? Maintaining healthy relationships for young people. And I think in order to do that, we do have to discuss what teen dating violence really is.
Yes.
And so teen dating violence, it happens in teen relationships between 12 and 18, and it is physical, mental, and emotional control by one partner over the other. And this violence is used to gain power and control in that relationship. You put somebody down and to isolate them from friends and from family, and to lower their self-esteem to gain more power in that relationship. And it's also a pattern too. So you'll see in the beginning it seems really exciting and it's really awesome. They're both really excited about being in a relationship, but then tension it rises, and then it becomes violent, and then that abusive partner may then apologize, and then it go back and start hunting in the face, and it's that cycle of violence. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's happening with teens, and so it can be quieter, and it can go under the radar a lot too, because teens most of the time aren't sharing everything about their relationships
Right.
that they're in, and they want everybody to think that it's great because they don't want to be questioned about the relationship. And it could very well be the first time that they've been dating someone too, so it could be a really big deal to them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Breaking up is hard to do for kids.
It is. Yeah, absolutely. Well, so what is some of the prevalence of teen dating violence? Like, how common is it?
1 in 3 young people or teens are going to be in an abusive relationship. And I know that sounds like a really big number, but abusive relationships can be not only physical, but mental and emotional too, controlling somebody mentally or emotionally. And it can also present itself as being romantic at first. For instance, I don't want you to wear something because I only want you to wear those things for me. I just want you to look like that for me. It's not that I don't trust you, I just don't trust the other people around you to do that. So you'll see a partner start to close up, or why do you feel like you have to wear makeup? Who are you trying to impress? I like you just the way that you are. Or you don't need to get a job. I can just take care of everything. I can pay for everything. And that's financial abuse. But on the surface, it's like, oh, this person, they really care about me. They want to take care of me. Mm-hmm. This is what a relationship's supposed to be about. I should feel like I'm being taken care of. And then slowly but surely it turns into controlling other things as well. And also, if somebody gets actually upset about what their abusive partner is doing, it's like, it's really not that big of a deal. You know, this is something that you're making up. You cry all the time. You're always upset. You're the one who gets me mad because you're upset all the time. And now I'm not going to talk to you. I'm not going to talk to you for 2 days, but you can try and make this up to me. And that gaslighting, you know, makes the teen think, oh, did I really do that? It was probably me. I'm always the one causing problems in this relationship. Uh-huh. And so that's why it's so prevalent, because that is something that can happen quite often, especially when people are learning about relationships to start with. And females between the ages of 16 and 24 are roughly 3 times more likely to be in violent relationships than their teens too. So they are going to experience it usually at higher rates. But that does not mean that you can't have abusive relationships where the males in the relationships are the victims of the violence as well. Teens who suffer dating abuse, they're subject to long-term consequences, so alcoholism or other addictions, eating disorders, promiscuity, thoughts of suicide, and violent behavior. So coping in really negative ways, and they can have long-term effects. Having these negative views on relationships and learning that this is what you expect from a relationship. So their next partner, they expect to be treated in a negative way, because that's how relationships work. And without having any kind of concept of what a healthy relationship is, to expect that, to strive for that, that could mean that their next relationship, they just expect that to happen.
So as maybe another parent, like you're seeing your children's friends change, and you're seeing maybe some of this, and I think we're going to talk about some of those signs in just a little bit, but you're a grandma, you're the mom, and you're starting to see some of this where they used to, dress a little nicer, they used to wear makeup, and all of a sudden they're not, or, maybe they're crying more, and I think a lot of times we think, oh, it's teenager, because we all know teens are, hormones and exploring things, and they don't really know, but I think that's something we call red flags.
Exactly.
And I think that's a great thing that we all need to learn is to kind of watch for those signs as well.
Yeah, and with the red flags too, it may be that they're in a violent dating relationship, but it also could mean that something else is going on. So watching for these red flags, they can really mean a lot for the well-being of that child. And then that might be a time to kind of swoop in and ask them, do you want to talk about relationships? Do you want to talk about why you get into relationships? It's supposed to benefit you. And if it's not, that's something that you have to evaluate and ask an adult. I can help with that. But some red flags for relationships, if you're seeing this, whether it be with your child, grandchild, your children's friends, or a family friend or something like that, demanding details about how you spend your time. With cell phones, we can have constant access to one another. There's a difference between willingly giving that information, like, hey, I'm going to softball practice, and then afterwards, I'm gonna have dinner with my family, but then you can come over for a movie, versus, what are you doing after school today? Well, I have softball practice. Well, who's all going to be there? Is anybody going to be watching? Who's going to be watching? Should I come by to make sure that nobody's watching you? Oh, you're having dinner with your family? I thought that we were going to have dinner tonight. How about you tell them you can't make it, and I'll just take you to dinner? Or what time is that dinner going to be over? Because I'll be over immediately after you finish eating dinner with your family. But it's demanding as soon as you wake up. If you feel like you have to check in with your significant other, that's when it's uncomfortable. And that can also be started in a romantic way as well, too. Like, share your location with me. I always want to know if you're safe. If I find out that, I haven't talked to you in a few hours and I'm worried about you, I want to be able to check your location, because if you're somewhere just random, I want to be able to come and save you. And the reality of that happening, well, it does, and I think that that's a great relationship to have with an adult in your life as a teenager. That's not the responsibility of your significant other. And having that constant monitoring can be a huge red flag.
Yeah. And it has to add so much more pressure. I mean, it's already tough being a teen. And then if you think of that kind of pressure that their partner is putting on them, and they think, like you said, it starts out kind of romantic, and they think it's kind of neat. Oh, I'm getting all this attention, but you really realize that it's not healthy at all.
Yes, that's another thing too, with that kind of constant monitoring, a teen getting their phone taken away, they may start acting out and being super explosive in behavior in a way that you would have never recognized before, because they're thinking, oh no, I need my phone because I need to check in with my partner. I'm going to get in a lot of trouble for this. Not only are they getting in trouble with their parents, because that's not their concern, but their concern is they'll be on thin ice with their significant other because now they can't check in with them.
Yeah, so maybe when they were middle schoolers and you took their phone away, they just pouted, and then all of a sudden, as a parent, you're seeing them maybe use it inappropriately, you take it away, and now all of a sudden you get like a rage reaction, or, and you're like, what, this is not the way my child normally would have reacted.
So that would be a red flag as well, is taking that away, and they're like, no, please, you can't, and they're not gonna wanna openly tell you because they don't want you to have a bad view of their significant other, because they want to be able to spend time with them. They want that honeymoon phase back.
Yeah.
So then restricting contact with family or friends, if you start noticing that a child is spending all of their time with their significant other and is abandoning their friends or their family members, that might be a red flag. Of course, an individual, they can choose, like, I really like spending time with my significant other, I want to, but when it starts to turn into, oh, actually, I don't like my friends anymore, or why are you asking me? Like, I'm doing something new with my life. I'm spending time with somebody who I actually care about. My friends don't care about me. When you start to see the value of family and friends going down, the value of that partner being kind of put more on a pedestal, that could be a huge red flag as well. And they want to isolate. The abusive partner wants to isolate them because then they can't tell anybody what's going on.
Yeah.
You can't tell your friends.
Can't tell your friends. And
criticizing you or what's important to you, controlling what you wear, what you look like. We kind of talked about that before. Coercing you or pressuring you into physical activity, and then touching you in public without your permission. Boundaries, crossing those boundaries. You can have a different relationship in public and in private. But if you notice that your teen's partner is doing something they seem embarrassed by it, whether that be like holding their hand or putting their arm around them, they seem embarrassed by it, they don't feel like they can say anything or like just move away at all.
Yeah.
That could be an issue too, because that's showing in public that they're doing something to cross boundaries, what could possibly be happening in private as well. Yeah. And then controlling reproductive choices too. So that could be telling your significant other that you don't want them to use birth control or to use condoms or something like that, saying we have a bright future ahead of us. We could start a family because we're going to be together forever anyways. Because that locks in your significant other sometimes is, well, now they're going to be with me forever because we have a child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So what more can we all do, from a standpoint of helping agencies like Freedom House that are domestic violence, sexual assault agencies, how can we as, the whole community, go about starting to help?
Okay, so I would say, first off, individually, checking in on information and continuing to educate yourself. And you could do that through getting in touch with your local crisis centers. You could do that through the National Teen Dating Abuse Hotline. And then there are a few websites, loveisrespect.org, breakthecycle.org, and chooserespect.org. You can go on those websites and you can read more into what it looks like and what more red flags are for teen dating violence. And then you can use that information and share it with your community, because this is kind of a taboo subject. Talking about abusive relationships is really hard to do. And so normalizing that, and that can be done also through community outreach. And that is in a collective approach to community change. And that can be done through engaging with groups in your community and providing information on healthy relationships, on what a healthy relationship is, like a forum. And you could do that by by contacting your local government. And so you can let them know what healthy relationships are, so they can take a more macro approach.
Mhm.
And then school sports, intramural sports, that is a big place where a lot of people join together and also socially join together.
Yeah.
A lot of relationships are built in that environment. After school programs, school clubs, your school theater group, band, if we reach out and we present those groups with this information, these groups where teens are going together and they are engaging socially and developing relationships, they can all then have access to that information. Church groups, so churches, getting into contact with your local church if you're a member of that church, and then you can share that healthy relationship information with your youth groups, also too with the adults, with the parents. So at different locations, so schools, libraries, churches, gyms, local businesses, or other agencies in your community. So those community members that you have this strong connection with, reach out to them, call them, ask them if you can go and talk to their community in that group and talk to them about how healthy relationships are for teens. Because even if it's just one teen or two teens or a parent, and then they share this, that could help immensely. That would help the teens in that community to a level.
And for like our GFWC club women, if they don't feel strong enough to speak on their own, that's where they just reach out to their local agency, like Freedom House, and find their local domestic violence or sexual assault. Sometimes they're called rape crisis centers, and find those individuals and say, I have a connection to XYZ group, one of the groups that we spoke about, right? And then get one of their staff to go with you. Like, you're just the host. So not only could you host a group and build like a group around it, but you could literally just be that person that made the connection between your child, grandchild, neighbors, ball club with the professional from the domestic violence sexual assault agency. And so that's helping, bridge that and get those healthy relationship forums, out and educate your public. But then you could also build and educate your own clubs, I think, and your own people, and just know all your local resources.
Exactly. Every rape crisis center has a prevention program, and the prevention program focuses on teen dating violence. It's one of the focuses. And so let's say your group doesn't necessarily feel confident to go and do those presentations or to hold the forum, but you can host it and you can bring in a preventionist, or you can have a preventionist come to your group and they can give you more information, and then you can build that confidence to even do that yourself and to be that person too. Think about how it felt when you were a teen and you didn't know if you could trust some of the adults around you because they hadn't taken the time to necessarily remember what it felt like to be a teen. And then imagine with this information, you get to be that adult for the teens around you.
For the teens that need that somebody to listen to them and then turn around and be their voice if they need help.
Yes.
So yeah.
So that's crucial. And we have been fortunate enough here at Freedom House, have been in prevention and in counseling to make connections with teens and with other adults in the community to provide that support for teens. And we have helped so many to get out of abusive relationships and work towards healing and work towards healthy relationships as well.
Yeah. And the healthy relationships here have just grown from youth groups to churches to school groups and just on and on. So I think it's definitely something that as we all work together in our communities, it's something we can spread all across the United States, the world,
make a true
and just make a difference.
Change
changes.
The culture of relationships.
Yeah. So I want to thank Kayla again for doing this talk for us, and she wanted to close with this really great poem that one of her clients that she worked with, a teen client, wrote for Kayla and kind of for staff in general.
Yes,
So I'll let Kayla finish.
She was in an abusive relationship and came to counseling to heal from that after she was able to get out after a presentation from Freedom House about teen dating. So it's called When the Clouds Part. In my darkest hour, when I was lost in deep despair, I turned to you and slowly things began to change. Over time, I found reasons to smile again, and the mountain that loomed so tall in the distance was suddenly something I knew I would be able to conquer. You gave me the tools to pick up the scattered pieces of my life and move forward cautiously with confidence and determination. When I think about all that I have gained from your wisdom and your insight and your genuine capacity to care about others, I realize that I have been so blessed just to have known you. I feel stronger now, and I know in my heart that much of the strength that I've gained is due to you. So thank you, dear friend, for guiding me out of the darkness and into the light. I know that the clouds will gather again from time to time, but I also know that eventually the sun makes its way through those clouds. I know that's because of you.
Pause for okay.